it was supposed to be the future, but it ended up being a cargo dog for only a few select airlines. So what was the story of the MD-11, and why did it fail as a commercial airliner? Today, we'll be taking a quick look at this legendary aircraft, loved by many and hated by pilots. It all started when McDonnell Douglas wanted a new wide-body long-haul airliner to replace the aging DC-10. Work soon started on what would become the MD-11. In 1986, when McDonnell Douglas unveiled a new, sleek plane, airlines were impressed. It had a longer range, better fuel economy, and more seats. On paper, it all sounded great. But the reality was, the new plane wasn't entirely new. It was almost a stretched DC-10, with more modern avionics, longer fuselage, and updated systems. And of course, that third engine stuck in the middle of the tail. We'll get to that later. But reality had other plans. The MD-11 didn't just underperform, it underwhelmed. The range wasn't what was promised. In fact, it struggled to meet the original range requirements given to airlines. Fuel efficiency wasn't great either, especially compared to other newer twin-engine jets that were starting to enter service. And then, a new problem arose: center of gravity. When they stretched the MD-11, they created a whole new aerodynamic issue: center of gravity, the point the plane rotates around. It was moved too far back. If you wanted to balance the MD-11 on your finger, you put your finger on the center of gravity. That's the center of gravity of the airplane. But when the center of gravity moves too far of the airplane, the aircraft becomes inherently more unstable, and this was a big problem in the MD-11. Small pitch oscillations meant huge pitch oscillations, and this was one of the biggest problems of the MD-11 when it came to handling. To make things worse, McDonnell Douglas also downsized the control surfaces to increase fuel efficiency, which meant the aircraft became even harder to handle, especially during landings. This earned the MD-11 a reputation for being tricky to fly, and many pilots did not like flying it. Meanwhile, Boeing and Airbus were cooking up something brand new. Boeing launched the 777, a clean sheet design with only 2 engines, better fuel economy, and modern systems. Airbus responded with the A330 and A340 families. By the time the MD-11 had officially entered service in 1990, the market had already started shifting. By the time it launched fully in the mid-1990s, sales were underwhelming. Then, in 1997, when Boeing acquired McDonnell Douglas, and in 1998, the unthinkable happened. They ended the MD-11 production. The last MD-11 was built in 2000. The plane was also retired pretty quickly from passenger service. The last commercial passenger flight of the MD-11 was in 2014. Only around 20 years after it entered service. That's a very short lifespan for such a wide-body airliner that was so new at the time. This happened for a number of reasons. Mainly the fact that twin-engine aircraft consumed much less fuel compared to old trijets, and around the same time, the International Air Transport Association, IATA, lifted restrictions on twin-engine aircraft flying long-haul routes, known as ETOPS regulations. This meant the new twin-engine aircraft, which only had 2 engines, could now fly farther, safely, and legally. So, what really became of the MD-11? Although it's often labeled as a failure, the MD-11 wasn't a total flop. Around 200 MD-11s were built between 1990 and 2000, and several major airlines did put into service. Notables among these was Finnair, which was a launch customer, operating the aircraft on long-haul routes from Europe to Asia and North America, Delta, American Airlines, Swissair, KLM, Lufthansa, and Alitalia were among the biggest operators of the MD-11s. As a passenger aircraft, even Varig and Korean Air flew the Trijet on international routes. For a while, it seemed like it might hold its own, but as I said again, the combination of high fuel consumption, difficult handling, and stiff competition from newer twin-engine jets, it meant that airlines already started retiring the MD-11 in the early 2000s, much earlier than expected. The final commercial passenger flight of the MD-11 took place on October 26, 2014, with KLM flying the last scheduled service, a farewell flight from Montreal to Amsterdam. Aviation enthusiasts around the world marked the occasion, tickets selling out in minutes. It was an end of the era, not just for the MD-11, but for Trijet Airlines as a general.